Alright, stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny, but yo, I'm making money, see? So yo, world, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round. I'm the little fool in town, and my sound's laid down by the underground. I'll drink a bottle of Hennessy you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself. My name is Humpty, pronounced with a Humpty. Yo, ladies, oh, how I like to pump thee. And all the rappers in the top 10, please allow me to bump thee. I'm stepping tall, y'all, and just like Humpty Dumpty, you're gonna fall when the stereos pump me. I like to rhyme.
So everybody, let us talk about the Rotel 1592 integrated amplifier. Now, I hope you guys liked that initial opening video. I did that kind of as an interesting thought for the Rotel here, but I actually like spicy food. It's something for my viewers, they might not know. I love spicy food. I've got a big jar of hot sauce in the fridge, some habanero sauce that I use when I eat eggs, and I put it on sandwiches and stuff. I love spicy food. But anyway, speaking to the Rotel 1592, this is the original 1592. It is not the current Mark II version. A little bit different. They actually look roughly the same, but all my thoughts and everything is going to be for the original 1592, not the Mark II, which I've never used and of course I've never heard. I kind of wanted to do this video as sort of a comparison between the Rotel 1592 and of course this down here. This is the Hegel H80S. I'll link that below in the description, but I did sort of a little light review on this one, on the H80S, and quite a bit different between the two. Obviously their physicality is quite a bit different. This is about 40 pounds. The Hegel H80S is about 20. This is about double the height of the Hegel. The Rotel is quite a bit deeper as well, probably about 3-4 inches deeper. Input specification is quite a bit different as well as power. You know, this has a built-in DAC, built-in phono stage, Bluetooth. It's got the works. The Hegel H80S, on the other hand, is just an all-analog integrated amplifier, so quite a bit different there. No DAC or anything to speak of. Of course, this has quite a bit more power. I want to say this is 250 into 8, and I want to say this is about 75 into 8. So quite a bit different there. But beyond their specs and number sheets and all that kind of stuff, they sound the exact opposite of one another. But anyway, let's talk about it. Let us look around the Rotel 1592, and then we'll talk about sound quality. Overall, the sound quality, well, let's talk about build quality first with the Rotel 1592. This is a solid piece of equipment. Everything from the buttons on the front here, all of this stuff, it just is beautifully made. The inputs around back, the RCA jacks, the speaker jacks, all the digital connectivity, it all feels solid, it all feels robust. And of course the weight, this is a heavy thing, but you know, at 250 watts, it is definitely a heavy thing. But yeah, build quality is very nice with this. I do actually like the look of the silver one quite a bit better. For whatever reason, I think the silver in this particular amp looks much better. It's got the bright silver end caps and kind of that brushed silver finish across the front. I think it looks better. And you know, I'm not often the type of person to say that silver looks better. Personally, I don't really care. But I think in the case of Rotel, I think the silver does look better. But yeah, build quality is absolutely fantastic. And so, yeah, let's talk about sound. So this is kind of an interesting amp in terms of sound. I will get it out of the way and say it's really not my cup of tea. But suffice it to say, it is a decent amp. It is a good quality amp. You can definitely get a sense of its quality. And matter of fact, here recently I put out a video talking about digital attenuation and how people confuse, you know, loudness with power and all these kinds of things. Well, the impetus for that video was actually this Rotel, as a matter of fact, because the way the volume control works is you have to get up around 50, 60 to really get any sound out of it. Of course, it's 0 to 100 on the volume, but around 50, 60 is when you really start getting volume out of it. Below that, it's too quiet to hear almost. But yeah, definitely a good amp in that respect. But again, I don't really care for it. And there are a few reasons why. It's a very neutral sounding amp. And, you know, I truthfully haven't had that much experience to Rotel products. This is actually one of only my third Rotel product I've ever heard. I heard one of their entry-level integrated amps maybe about 3-4 years ago. And, you know, it was fine. I heard it very quickly. I can't even remember the model. It was one of the basic ones. It wasn't the A11 Tribute. It might have been the A10, just their basic entry-level integrated. And anyway, I mean, it sounded fine, but I didn't notice anything that impressed me. You know, and again, I heard it very quickly, so it was hard to make those sorts of assumptions. And you know, from what I understand, you know, the recourse and the rhetoric online about Rotel products is they tend to have a warmer sound. This certainly does not. It has a very neutral sound, and regardless of speakers you pair it with, and I have 4 or 5 sets that I've paired it with since I've had it, it has this neutral sound where it has no character of its own. And, you know, that kind of brings me back to why I put in the first part about having, you know, eating spicy noodles and liking spicy food, is that, in all honesty, I like spice. I like a little color. I like a little distortion. I like these things in my products. I enjoy that in my products. I think it adds something to the sound. And I think when you take that stuff away, you remove the soul of the music, if you want to call it that. Now, that's not a knock against the Rotel, because as it sits, it's quite powerful. It does sound pretty good on its own. I do think, and here's where we get to the comparison, I do think the Hegel does some things better. And let me kind of move it down just a hair. The Hegel isn't quite as powerful. You can tell that. You can tell that sense of power. However, the Hegel sounds louder. And it gets louder quicker. And, you know, you can tell that the Hegel is more dynamic. It has more punch in the bass, more rhythmic drive in the bass, and particularly in the mid-range versus the Rotel. Now, the Rotel's not bad, but this is better. Or I should say, I like it better. And that's a distinction that's important here. The Hegel also has a little bit more character, has quite a bit more character. It has that kind of involving sound, a little bit rich, a little bit warm, but it kind of brings you into the music and shows you the soul and the life behind what these musicians are doing, where this is kind of like breaking out the microscopic lens and investigating what they're doing. You're not really understanding it, you're just looking at it. You know what I mean? And again, not that this is bad, but I like this better. Another negative review. And people love when I do negative reviews. I really don't get it. And I'm being facetious there, by the way, being heavily sarcastic. But people really dislike when I do negative reviews. And a lot of times it comes down to it's a product they have. It's a product they bought from their buddy or their pal, or they bought it a couple of years ago or whatever. And then somebody like myself comes on and says that, oh, it's not this and it's not that. And then they believe otherwise. And so their whole statement of, man, you're completely wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, you know. I've had that amp for 5 years, and it's as dynamic as you can want. It's not neutral. It's Jesus Christ, man, shut up. I'm just sharing my opinion about a product. If you don't like my opinion, then don't watch the damn video. It's pretty simple. You know where the power button is on the side of your phone or your TV remote? Just hit that, and then I'll shut up. It's very simple, all right? But yeah, I'm just sharing my opinion. It isn't a bad amplifier. It's just simply not to my taste. I do think if you were to pair it with warmer sounding speakers, and at the moment I really don't have any warmer sounding speakers in the house, you would get more of a balanced sound versus having this sort of light neutrality that I heard displayed through the Rotel. But yeah, overall, it isn't my favorite, but it is a good amplifier.